Imagine a mid-July summer noon. The sun pours its fire upon the fields, and the air is so stifling you can see heat waves shimmering above the earth. Out there, modern gardeners are frantically dragging tangled plastic hoses, hunched over to water each plant, tethered like prisoners to their own gardens. Water pumps roar, and the utility bills quietly climb higher with each passing day. But if you step across a rustic wooden fence into an Amish farm in Pennsylvania, the space is strangely, beautifully still. Heavy-laden heirloom tomato vines stretch upward in vibrant green. Rows of corn stand tall and proud beneath the scorching sun. There is no roar of a pump, no misting sprinklers, and the farmer sits unhurriedly beneath the cool shade of an old oak tree. Their secret does not lie in magic, but deep beneath the dark loam, where an ancient technique quietly performs the labor of thousands of gallons of water. To comprehend this miraculous stillness, we must turn back the historical pages of the Amish community to the late 19th century, when the very first steam-powered plows began to appear across American fields in 1892, promising a fierce era of mechanization to boost yields. The Amish calmly held on to their own path. The faith of Gelassenheit, a graceful yielding to nature, taught them that the earth is a living entity to be revered and leaned upon, not to be aggressively manipulated. Rather than flattening the earth into a sterile chessboard with the brute force of machinery, they applied a primal agrarian art carried over from Europe, known as hugelkultur, literally translated as hill culture. Throughout the early 20th century, when agricultural experts of the era visited Amish farms, they could not help but feel perplexed. In an age that worshipped flatness and mechanized precision, creating rugged, winding earthen mounds filled with rotting wood seemed to defy the mainstream, carrying the illusion of wasted land. Unsolicited advice for modernization was constantly offered to these straw-hatted elders, but the Amish simply remained silent, patiently tending to their work, yielding to the natural laws they had always believed in. That quiet patience was rewarded with a resounding validation from history. In the 1930s, the brutal weather phenomenon known as the Dust Bowl swept in, lasting a full decade and devastating North American agriculture. Drought scorched the flat, over-tilled fields. The wind tore the fragile topsoil away, whipping it into colossal dust storms that blotted out the sun. Thousands of modern farmers lost their harvests entirely and were forced to abandon their lands. Yet, amidst that ruin, the hugelkultur mounds of the Amish stood unyielding, vibrantly green and brimming with moisture. They successfully cultivated their crops, surviving the worst drought of the century with virtually no need for external mechanical irrigation. Those who had once doubted began to seek them out, learning a secret that nature has practiced for millions of years, but which modern man had carelessly forgotten. Life springs from the fallen timber. Imagine an ancient weathered log collapsing in the heart of an old-growth forest. It does not vanish overnight. For decades, it has rested there, patiently decaying. Under a microscopic lens, a decomposing log is identical to a colossal honeycomb, woven with billions of microscopic caverns. Mycorrhizal fungi, bacteria, and earthworms labor ceaselessly, transforming the rigid timber into a massive biological sponge. Modern science has recorded this truth. A fully decomposed log possesses the remarkable ability to hold a volume of water 5 times greater than its own dry weight. When the Amish bury these logs into the earth, they are architecting natural, subterranean reservoirs. With every falling rain, the wood drinks deeply. When the blazing heat lingers and the surrounding soil dries out, these buried logs slowly release their captured moisture and nutrients, steadily nourishing the roots year after year. A properly constructed hugelkultur bed can maintain its pristine fertility and flawless water retention capacity for 2 solid decades, without the need for synthetic fertilizers or expensive irrigation systems. Crafting a subterranean reservoir is actually wonderfully rustic. The Amish farmer uses only a simple spade, digging a trench roughly half a meter deep and a meter wide. The shape of the trench need not be perfectly straight. It gracefully contours to the natural topography to capture every drop of rainwater runoff. The very bottom of the trench becomes the resting place for the hardest, most massive logs, the dry, weathered oak and maple branches that the rest of the world would simply cast into a bonfire. This forms an unyielding foundation, slowly decomposing over decades. Stacked upon that massive timber are medium-sized branches, creating vital air pockets for oxygen to circulate freely. Next comes a blanket of dry grass, fallen leaves, and crumbled, rotting twigs, a soft, inviting food source to help the microbes ignite the digestion process. Finally, they use the very earth they just excavated to drape a thick cover over it all, shaping it into a gentle, sloping mound, rising like the back of a deeply slumbering creature. Yet there is a natural transition here that, if rushed, will cost you an entire harvest. As the buried logs begin to break down, the fungal spores and bacteria require a massive amount of energy to fuel their labor. That energy is nitrogen. They will aggressively draw the nitrogen from the surrounding soil, creating a temporary nutritional void in the topsoil. If you eagerly sow heirloom tomato or pumpkin seeds directly atop a freshly buried bed of wood, the fragile seedlings will be utterly unable to compete with the microbial army for sustenance. They will become stunted and slowly fade to a sickly yellow. The Amish understand this natural rhythm. They calmly select logs that have been rotting in the woods for a long time, or, if they must use fresh wood, they interweave layers of well-aged horse and chicken manure, or fresh, nitrogen-rich green grass between the timber to nourish the microbial troops. Often they build these mounds in the autumn, allowing them to rest undisturbed through a bitter, freezing winter. As the frost thaws and the melting snow reshapes the internal architecture, the earthen mound is truly ready to embrace the heirloom seeds of spring. These quiet hugelkultur hills do not merely harbor reservoirs of water. They are a primal, natural climate control system. In the scorching summer, the buried timber keeps the root zone blissfully cool. In the bitter winter, the natural decomposition process releases a gentle, radiant heat, incubating the roots and sheltering them from brutal, killing frosts. This is exactly why an earthen bed modeled this way can extend a crop's growing season by several weeks compared to the flat, exposed fields beyond the fence. If, in this quiet moment, as you and I reflect upon the majesty of decaying timber and the graceful, nature-yielding wisdom of the traditional farmer, you feel a gentle peace weaving through your mind, please softly press the like button and subscribe to the channel. Leave a few lines in the comments sharing your own garden stories or your quiet intentions. The rustic and sincere bond of our community is the very flame that fuels my journey to unearth and share age-old ecological philosophies, returning the most pristine, original values safely back into your hand. Many might wonder, can a technique born in the valleys of Pennsylvania be applied to a sun-baked yard in Texas or a narrow, cramped balcony in the heart of a concrete city? Nature is far more forgiving than we imagine. If you live in a drought-stricken land, dig your trench deeper, bury larger logs, and keep the mound lower to fiercely protect the moisture. If you dwell in a lowland region with heavy rains, build your mounds soaring higher so the plant roots will never sit waterlogged. Even if you possess only a few terracotta pots on a rooftop, Snap a few dry twigs and line the bottom of your pots before pouring the earth in. The underlying principles of life are always universal, whether in a majestic landscape or a miniature vessel. Another magnificent blessing is the natural suppression of pathogens. Conventional prejudice fears that rotting wood will seduce destructive pests. Yet the reality of natural farming reveals the exact opposite. When you engineer a deeply diverse environment, beneficial microbes, earthworms, and natural predators will gather and multiply. They construct an unshakable biological balance, keeping the ecosystem vibrantly healthy. The crops strike their roots deep into the wood, absorbing the profound wealth of minerals, yielding harvests that are not only abundant, but carry the original, intensely rich flavor of Mother Earth. This ancient art of burying timber will never require a technological patent. There is no commercialization here, no corporate trademark stamped upon a piece of dry firewood. It is passed down unconditionally from the calloused hands of one generation of farmers to the next, much like the old-growth forest shedding its leaves to nourish all living things. When you truly embrace this philosophy, you step out into your garden and view the dry twigs scattered after a storm with entirely new eyes. They are no longer trash. They are no longer a burden to be hauled away. They are the foundational bricks of life, subterranean reservoirs for blistering days, and a primal source of natural nourishment for the future. The story of hugelkultur is not merely a lesson in how to plant a tree. It is a profound lesson in graceful surrender. When humanity momentarily sets aside the extreme desire to conquer and reshape everything, when we lean into and embrace the gentle ruins of nature, Mother Earth offers back an enduring, unshakable abundance. Do not let tending the earth become a grueling battle of water bills and exhausted bodies. Pick up a piece of fallen timber, bury it deep within the dark brown loam, and wait in quiet stillness for the resurrection of the earth.